Go. All right, we are ready.
Welcome, everybody. And thank you very much for bearing with us. Those of you that are live, I, John had something with some letter of the alphabet and some computer issue. Cubbie and I went, we're just gonna hang out and talk. So anyway, but those of you that are watching this recording have no idea we were even late. So it's tomato tomato on that aspect. But thank you very much for joining us on this wonderful Monday night. We are so glad that you were able to take time. That you have all 10 figures. You can type in the chat box. We would appreciate that. And if you only got your two thumbs, that works just as well. But make sure you're leaving those chat things. And if you got some questions to throw in tonight, we want to hear them because we got some good ones, but I'm sure yours are better. Just saying.
Probably. For
And
certainly their answers would be better.
it's the first time in a long time we got the band back together.
Well,
Yeah.
it's been, you've been traveling and, there's this, there's that. Summer, wind, rain, durations
Earth.
or whatever it is, that's you got it. Hey, we got
21st
some
of
folks in the
September.
chat room. I see John, Robin, and Day is with us, and I thought there was a couple more I saw earlier on the Facebook.
DJK.
Yeah. Thank you guys for being with us tonight. So, gentlemen, we've got a few questions that we're going to dig into. Did you bring your answering mug?
Yes.
Nice. He does. He's got it. He's ready to go. He's ready to go. Oh, hey, I gotta get that little break thingy loaded up in here too. There we go. The
Oh
transition.
yeah, because we got to put the spots in between. Because when Cubbie and I did it, we just went, okay, wait,
Hold your breath.
and now here we go.
And there it goes. It actually worked pretty well.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad.
It worked well. So let's jump into our first question tonight. Let's put the break in here.
All right.
Question number 1 tonight, gentlemen, is how do you bring the energy at a wedding event where you've had kind of this long, kind of drawn out cocktail and dinner time, especially say if the venue wasn't able to turn the floor over right away so that people are just, you can feel no matter what you've done, the energy is just kind of tanked. Now, maybe a spotlight dance or two, and then you're to bring the energy. How do you get yourself up for that? How do you, at that moment?
It is one of those times of the night that I hate the most. Like it's just that waiting period because I always want to go, I need to do something. I need to get them moving something. And one of the things that you talk about them flipping over the floor, my biggest push is my couples decide that they need to talk to every table for 35 minutes. And so it's just like we can't move forward until we do this. You want to talk to them, that's fine. So a lot of times I had that conversation with my couples ahead of time, but it never fails. Like, oh, we're not spending that much time. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So I like to prime the pump as much as I can, as much as my couples will let me within the confines of dinner music. I might start normal with where they wanted to go, but towards the end, I try and raise that energy a little bit so that even if it's even if we're still kind of going, okay, we've got a little bit of time before we can progress to open dancing, the toes are tapping, the fingers are going, the head's nodding, like they're getting into that music a little bit so that when I can flip that switch, I've made that switch. The other thing that I've done is try and create an event that brings everybody and kind of almost creates a hard break in between what was dinner and what is going to be open dancing. And this works really well if you convince your couples to have like a big group photo on the dance floor, and use that as kind of like, all right, we're gonna bring everybody out, and you are able to have some energy with it because you're pulling them to come to the floor, not for anything other than to smile pretty for Bobby and Susie,
Mm-hmm.
but to make them be able to have that. And then once you had that, then you're like, all right, we're starting the party. And it kind of has that mental change. So it's not like music, music, music. We did some more music. All right, now we're doing music that's faster. Suddenly you should dance. It's like a break and it creates an event, for lack of better terms.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Yeah, design, flow, and we arrive at a spot. Nice. Cubbie, what's your methodology?
I don't know. It's all pre-done with a couple. A lot of times I like to do the scavenger hunt before I do the formals, and my scavenger hunt's very comedic. And if you're not familiar with the scavenger hunt, it's where you bring 10 guests up and you tell them to go find a business card or a pair of glasses, someone sexier than you. And there's a lot of shtick that goes with it. And then at the very end, they collect money for the bride and groom. So there's a lot of energy going in there. And it's just kind of I get people. I recently got a review where they said I brought a lot some comedic to a very emotional day. I mean, it was great emotional, but it lightened the mood and it was kind of fun. And then it took me into my formals, and they're like, okay, so they haven't really got to see a lot of your hosting yet, because basically you're just dismissing tables or you're playing cocktail music, and you're not usually you're making smaller announcements, but not a lot of announcements. So they don't really know your personality just yet or how fun. They may have heard your grand intro, and there's several different types of grand intros. There's the basketball court one, or the explain the couple how they know each other, bride and groom, and so you can show off your personality and MC skills there as well to kick off the evening. But if you got that, like you said, and we're going into that long dinner flipping room, I like to do a fun game, and that's and then go into the dances and then kick off the night with the energy, and then I can kind of generally win them over from that. And not only that, my scavenger hunts get close to. I just did one this last Saturday, and I had about 120 people, and they got $1,100.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's and a little hint for everybody. If your couple has Venmo, have them print out the QR codes and put them on popsicle sticks, because not everybody will bring cash to a wedding, but if they might have a Venmo, you put them on there, and you have the bride and groom both gotta have separate ones, because it's a competition between the two people. Whoever collects the most money will get $20 from the gift card from the bride and groom. So they'll Venmo you money. It's a great tip to use if you're doing the scavenger hunt.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So my methodology, that's the after those spotlight dances and such, that's where I'm on the microphone probably the most, especially during some upbeat songs, because that becomes the time to do some prompting of the crowd and getting them involved, and to show kind of that upbeat energy and being really, really excited and into whatever music you're playing. Even though we've probably played the same songs in the same sets and done those same first three songs 100 million times, type of a situation, but it becomes more of an experience on the microphone to be able to do that. And taking one of the little things from listening to Mike Walters' weddings, where he's inviting people out to celebrate with Bobby and Susie, that continually hitting or coming back to that a couple of times early on is that, hey, we're going to have a big celebration for them. And it's amazing how by you dropping the name of the couple, how quickly people are like, yeah, we need to get out there. So really, it's almost three different perspectives here of how we approach this, which is interesting, because there's very seldom that we have three different ways that we're doing things.
No, and I can see your songs too. That first set, like maybe a Tayo Cruz Dynamite, Put Your Hands in the Air, or Starships by Nicki Minaj, Get Your Hands in the Air, Party in the USA. There's several different songs that we can get very interactive with them right off the bat.
Yeah, like there's no beer there's no beer in heaven, no beer today. All those good big songs. You play those and everyone, it's a little bit sadder, but we get the message across.
Yes.
I would say if you're going to use John's method, practice it a bunch at home.
Yes.
Where there's nobody around, because I know for me, one of the things I have the most difficulty with is creating energy when there is no energy, and coming out of that, you're going to try and pull them to the dance floor. You've got to do something that's going to get that energy to the level that wants them to move towards it. So you've got to get used to kind of being the fire starter, if you will,
very much so,
for that.
And it really helps if you have, in the pre-conversations with the bride and groom or the couple, it's talking about that early, I need you on the floor for the first few songs, because then it becomes much easier than to come on out and we're going to celebrate with the couple tonight. Yay, this is their big day. And then if you have some of the wedding party that's out there that are starting to show any sign of life, then you can encourage that over the microphone to come on out there and dance with the bridesmaids, because they're out here to have a great time and show us some dance moves. Oh yeah, little things like that can really help open up the floor and get things going. Cubbie, as you were mentioning your game and such, K Productions here mentions, of course, the photo, doing the bride and groom photo race around the room.
Oh
that
yeah, table races, what
ta-
we call them in the Midwest, table
yeah,
races.
yeah, yep. So definitely, definitely a lot of different ideas about how to start to build that energy in the room and get the dance going successfully. So awesome.
Be really quick, be careful of the table races. If your photographer's not on board, you may piss them off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you got a lazy photographer that does not want to chase him around, um, just make sure you consult and it's not something you're gonna do off the cuff.
Yeah, that would be, yeah, you can't, yeah, you've got to make sure you're having communication for sure. But okay, let's jump to our next question. Question 2 tonight is about barn weddings because we're seeing a lot more of those. The three of us are seeing quite a few, and people across the country are seeing quite a few of those. But the question was involving if a person's starting to bring back the foggers and hazers, because I have not run into a barn yet that had any kind of smoke detection devices like that would make it so you can use those. But I was just thinking, let's expand it a little bit. Not only with those, but are you doing anything different when it comes to your light show? Because there's some aspects of this, and I'll mention this. But are you doing anything different when it comes to your shows, by because you're playing in barns more often? Kevin, you
I'll
got to go
kick
first.
this. Yeah, and that's great because I got a simple answer to that. I don't even own any hazers or foggers. Um, it for me it went out in the 90s with the bubble machines, and I just never reinvested in them. So no, I don't even own them. So I'm out.
I'm gonna echo the statement of I don't have any, but I'm not about to rush out and purchase any because one of the things that I've noticed a lot of times the barns kind of a selling point is they have the big barn doors open, right? So they're like, it's I'm not going to really create a lot. I mean, I guess I could create some, to be able to have that fill, but there's not another wall there to kind of help keep it to kind of fill the space and get the best bang out of the buck for it. So when it comes to the Fargers and Hazers, I'm not. Um, to the other part to that, am I doing anything different? One of the things that I've kind of found is because of the way barnwood is, monograms, sometimes you can find some walls where some of my regular ballroom venues are so busy with all the decorations they put on their walls, it makes it hard. But with barns, I kind of have some extra flat surfaces I've been able to find. So I've
Hmm.
been able to kind of encourage that and be like, hey, here's something fun we can do. Got a great space for this right here. We can put it and be awesome. So that's one thing. And then a key point or some focal points for uplighting. Um, a lot of times you have your bays, right? And they have like the bottom or the rungs taken out of the ladders because drunk people climbing ladders is probably a
Got it.
liability.
Probably.
Um, but they're perfect spot to be able to put up lighting and just kind of shine up through. So you have a spot where it wouldn't be out on the edges of the room, but more to the middle piece, almost like you'd have columns if depending upon where you're looking at, where you could put that and just suddenly shine up and add some extra light closer to the dance floor without also being a tripping hazard because it's in between the two columns. Nobody's kicking it the way they might some other places.
What happens if they wanted to kick it?
Well, they tend to try and figure out a way to do it no matter
Oh,
where I
well,
put it.
that's good.
I think if I
That's
put it on the ceiling, somebody would learn how to walk up there just
fantastic.
because
Okay,
there's a light on the ceiling.
that's
Yeah.
nice to know. Nice to know. Um, I've actually a couple of weeks ago I was thinking about that. It's like, we could pull these out again. And then I remembered that when we had them, and we used to be able to run them, there was always some people in the crowd. And this is back now when smoking cigarettes indoors was still a thing. And there would be people who would complain about the smell and the fog or the haze even back then. And it's like, okay, so now that was back then when it was more cigarette smoke was a thing. Now I can't see that it would be well received, especially with a middle or a mixed age group. I think people are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, that just stinks," and because we're not as forgiving when it comes to things in the air because we're not used to cigarette smoke. Somebody was at one of the barns 3 or 4 weeks ago. Somebody was standing outside and they were having a smoke and it was coming through the barn because as these old barns are pretty drafty, and we were getting it upstairs there by the dance floor, and it was amazing how many people were turning and looking and were like, that would have never happened back in the early 2000s or in the 90s because it was just indoor smoking. There were ashtrays everywhere type of things in those years. So yeah, I thought about it for a minute and thought, nah, discard the idea. I do have them. I've got 2 or 3 foggers probably sitting in this building, and then there's hazers in the other. And I actually, about a month ago, I just pulled one out and decided, I wonder if this thing still works. I haven't used it in 20 years, 15 years, whatever it's been. And plugged it in, this old American DJ thing, starts rumbling away, and then there's haze coming out. It's like, it still works. I'll be darned.
What was it doing?
It was, yeah, just making haze. Actually, it's more of a compressor sound, so it sounds like a little compressor you'd use to inflate the tires of your car or something. As far as light shows, yes, I have changed my light shows. When I'm in a nicer venue, I've been using, because we've got them custom programmed, we've been using some of the beam type lighting moving heads where they can do gobos and different things. When we move those into barns, and our barns are typically, we're up in a hayloft area and it's all dark wood color, the walls are. So gobo type lighting effects they just get lost. Uplights in those situations can get lost. So what we've changed is we've gone to the feature light in that show is a mirror ball, a huge mirror ball, and we've gone to washes. We've got washes mainly, and then we have a couple of moving head fixtures that are just really bright spot or wash. They've got the zoom capability, but they're really bright, and we can make that work the ceiling, and you'll have a nice effect from that. But some of the traditional lights that I would use in a regular venue just don't work in a barn because of the darkness. So we've gotten away from those, and we've had some really good with the changing of light show for the barns. People have really loved it, and that crazy old mirror ball, people are like, I love the disco ball. I mean, it's a pain in the butt to set up. We've got this I don't know, I think it's a 30-inch, but it's at least a 24-inch. It's a huge thing. It took a long time to find it, but it is a neat classic effect that
it's very nostalgic.
Very much so, just like we are.
Yes.
Okay, let's jump to our next question here, guys. Question 3 tonight is about how far would you be willing to go for a Klondike? Wedding. That was it.
I like that first question a little bit better. As hot as it's been lately.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
It'd probably be much better, actually. Now I'm thinking ice cream would be good. Anyway, distance travel. This is something that a lot of us, depending upon where you're at, it can be, 5 miles is a trip for you. Some people, it's several hours. Now let's just look at, in a vehicle, us hauling our own system and performing for not a friend or someone I know, so a customer, just a customer that has called you up and said, hey, I really think we're connecting well. I want to hire you. How far would you be willing to travel under that kind of a guise for an event? And Dan, I think you're starting this one.
So under those conditions, about an hour and 10.
Okay.
That's about my extent.
Okay. Cubbie?
I am a gig pig, and
Nice.
I will go anywhere they pay for me to go. I've done San Diego. I just got a lead in for Lincoln, Nebraska, which is like 4 hours away. I've done Kansas City, Chicago, Minneapolis, a lot of like Decorah, Iowa, which is like 3.5 hours. I do some corporate events for America's Top Workplaces. This year I've been to Milwaukee, Oklahoma, Green Bay. So yeah, wherever they're willing to pay my travel expenses. And I love going to Newtown because like sometimes, you get the same referrals and, you have to always change up your show, and that one you can just go be yourself and have a great time. And if they're just willing to pay my fee to get me there and, overnight and all that stuff, you betcha I'll go anywhere.
You are a gig pig, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. I had another word, but I thought this is a PG show.
Yeah,
so
there you go. So at one time the travel wasn't a big deal, and I would be, 3-4 hours wasn't super common, but it would be a few times during the year. There would be that 3 to 4 hour travel one way. In our case, because we're in rural Minnesota, that puts us out at 125 to 150 miles, maybe one way. As time has gone on, yes, we've had 2 weddings so far this summer where we have traveled 100 miles one way. I don't like to do that anymore. It's just getting home at 3 o'clock. It just does not excite me. So unless I know, in those cases, I knew the people. I've done multiple weddings for them, so I felt a little obligation to be the one to go to travel and do that. But if it's someone that I'm just meeting with, about an hour is kind of my max of where I'll go now. And it has nothing to do with, like Bill Herman's video where he's driving to go meet these people and talking about, to help plan and such. Most of the time we're doing everything via Zoom anyway when it comes to planning. So that's really not a factor in it. It's just that 3-hour trip in the morning. So to give you an idea for those of you who aren't in the Midwest of how this would pan out. Ceremony, let's say the ceremony's at 3 o'clock. That means the dinner is going to be about 5 o'clock. The dance is going to start about 7 o'clock. So if the ceremony's at 3 o'clock and I have to do sound for that, we're going to be arriving somewhere between noon and 1. The boys go and set up one sound system. I set up the other one. Ceremony, they go do that. So if we have to be there at even 1 at the latest, we'd be there probably 12:30, 12. 3-hour drive, which means we're leaving somewhere around 9 or 10 in the morning. And then if we get done at 11 o'clock or midnight, which seems like most of them are midnight this year, after tear down, you've still got the 2.5 to 3 hours. So we're getting back at 3 in the morning, whatever time it is. It just don't do well with that anymore.
You don't make them get you a hotel room?
I've never really been a big fan of that. We've done it once in my whole time that we had a hotel. Lori, that was back when Lori and I were DJing. We were both going separate directions, but there was one of the weekends where it worked out that she didn't have a show, and we just decided that, hey, this is when we're going to go spend at this casino in Western Minnesota. And if I remember correctly, is that once we were done with the show, and we were so wound up after the show that by the time we fell asleep, and then Sunday morning, like at 9 o'clock, it's housekeeping, bang, 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 bang on the door. So, but you fell asleep about 3 o'clock or something anyway. So after that, it's like, yeah, we're just not gonna
Oh
play.
wow. I make them get me a hotel room, and I don't charge them for the hotel room. I just say, look, you get me a hotel room. I just don't want a closet.
Yeah.
I do know some local DJs that will charge them for the hotel room and then not stay there and keep the money. And to me, that is just wrong, right? Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm like, look, give me a hotel room. And if it's a real early one, like you talked about, then I need to be there on Friday night, just make sure. And I explained to him, like, if you get done your wedding at 11 o'clock, I tear down 11:45. I can't be on the road till 1 o'clock. It's not safe because I've got there at 1, it's a 12-hour day. And even for my DJs. And like I said, if they're willing for my overnights and my mileage and my fee, then they'll do it. If not, I always tell them, like, maybe you can find somebody locally cheaper. And I don't beg them for the events, but I also not going to cut myself short and drive till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I don't have younger kids either, like you, Dan. I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't have smaller kids like either one of you guys. So it's a different ballgame for me.
Well, and that's when we're talking about the distance. I mean, that right there pulls into it, and also I would say it's also different if I'm trying to fill my calendar to put food on my table versus, this is, I'm very vocal. Like, this is my second job. I treated it very much as if it's equal with the first as far as how I treat it. But in the same respect, if I decide to take 2 less gigs, everybody's still eating at my house.
Right.
So I can be more selective in that aspect. I can make sure that I'm home longer for my kids. But the question that I wanted to follow up with this is, all right, so thinking caps, because you guys have been in this since, the dinosaurs were dancing and getting married. What is the furthest wedding that you've ever done? Because, Cubbie, your corporate events have taken you all over the place. So I'm going to kind of toss them to the side. What's the furthest you've ever gone for a wedding, friend or otherwise? Doesn't matter.
San Diego.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with just traveling via vehicle. As far as where I hauled my own system, it was a 6-hour middle of North Dakota. Okay. So that would be
mine was
2.5 hours to Fargo, and then it was another 3.5 hours out.
Okay.
I'm
glad. Mine was 4, and that was just this past April for a friend of mine up in Erie. But this is my year of traveling. So I've got that one. I've got a friend of mine who I'm doing her daughter's wedding, and that's 2 hours. and then I've got a coworker who's 2 hours in another direction. I don't know why everybody wants me to travel this year, but
Well, it's because Day is giving them your phone number. I'm reading it out on Facebook right here, so that explains a lot.
that's
Did he put it out there? I
that
need to
does
see it.
explain it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
That does explain it.
if it's too far, he gives him Dan's phone number. So there it is, right there, Dan. It explains why it's your year of travel.
Thanks, Day.
Thanks
But
for the
the
referral.
question I've got is why am I not getting him down in Day's area if that's the case? You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind driving south a little bit, but
Oh, funny.
oh well.
Funny. All right, gentlemen, let's head to our next question. So one of the big questions that people ask, especially as they're just starting, they're like, we get tired of playing the same songs every week. You know, we're always playing this song, and they would ask on one of the chat boards about mixing it up. Is there songs you drop in? How do you handle that? And I wanted to kind of get your guys' opinion on it, that when we're doing weddings, week in, week out, there's a lot of similarities from one week to the next. How do you worry about keeping your show fresh? Do you worry about changing your music up? And let's kind of talk our way around with this one a little bit. Dan, I think you're going to actually start us out with this one, or did you do the last one?
I don't know. I'll go first.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So this is something that we recently talked about when Mike Walter was on the show. This is a topic that came up because we were talking to him about it, recording and posting his stuff on Mixcloud. And that has caused me to try and stay a little bit more fresh as far as my mixes are concerned. I might still play some of the same songs, but I'm not going to try and consistently follow up the same 2 songs together or the same set of songs together, even if they might make a great wordplay or make a great scene, you know, together. I kind of try and change it up every so often because I know if I'm going to post it and my clients could find that, or potential clients could find that, I don't want them hearing the exact same mix week after week after week after week. However they may decide to listen to. So I will mix them up from that standpoint and just being cognizant of the fact that I'm recording this. I want to make it different. If I'm not recording, I really don't worry about it as much because with the exception of maybe a photographer or my venue, they're not hearing the same thing that I did 4 weeks ago,
Sure.
2 months ago. So I'm not making the exact same set list, but if a couple of my more usual mixes makes their way in, nobody's any the wiser.
Kevin?
I'm a big fan of Mike Walter as well, but and I think we all learned from a guy by the name of Dave Lander, who is amazing, and he'll tell you to take those chances. And when you're doing your music programming, look at the age of the bride or the couple, see what year they graduated, then go to Billboard and see what kind of major hits there are, and then a couple classics when they were in middle school. And I will try to pull out 3 to 5 songs that I don't play every week. And if those songs hit, I'll put them in a rotation or something. Something that's been hitting lately for me is the next episode. I don't know why, by Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, da 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 da, and then you just go crazy, right? And then I mix out of it, it's a short edit. I play about a minute and a half, or DMX, lose, So there's some songs, like I said, I just like to try to drop newer songs, and as those songs I know I'm going to try to drop earlier, I will try to find an exit point if they don't work. I'll learn the song, find out what course I'm coming out of, if it's not working, so I can get out of it quickly. So if you are going to take chances or roll the dice on new songs, practice with those songs. Find an exit point if it's not working, so that you're not crashing, like a hard mix out of it, where it's a train wreck. And then pull something out of your pocket, like a High School Musical. Oh my God, I did a High School Musical song. Just it's crazy, right? But that's when they were watching when they were in high school, and it was just a huge sing along. So it's fun to find those songs that and that High School Music worked 1 week, but 3 weeks later it didn't. So I rolled out of it. So it is fun to see if it works and dust some things off that you haven't played in a while. You're like, man, I haven't played that in a while. I'm going to drop this. And Dan, you had this conversation a couple weeks ago, how we felt, and John, you were there. Mr. Brightside just not hitting anymore because they hear it at every wedding. So some of those songs that they hear at every weddings, if you want to be different, you've got to play different. And you just can't show up on Saturday ready to go. You've got to prep on Thursday, Friday, whatever days you do prep on, and take an hour and a half to prep some songs and get ready.
And recently with the weddings that we've been doing, the songs that have been going over, because we kind of keep a little bit of a track of what's doing well, what's kind of was less than the results we were hoping for, is some of the classic type songs that we all would refer to as bangers have been the ones that have gone over the best. You've tried some different things and kind of gone some directions to test a little bit, but it was going back to Uptown Funk still goes, and people love it. And there was, with the Cupid Shuffle, it was still filled the floor and it did its thing. There's so many of these songs that work really well week after week. And as somebody mentioned in the chat room there, that you're not the same guest week after week, so they're not seeing your same show. Obviously, Mixcloud could play a small factor, maybe some people seeing some repetition. I think it's really becomes a case of, and we've talked about this before, is that there are people in that audience who are going to go to one wedding for the year, and they're going to want to do the Cupid Shuffle. They're going to want to do, and I couldn't believe this, Michael dropped YMCA 3 times in the last 3 weddings, and each time they went absolutely bonkers for it. I kind of drifted away from playing YMCA because of, just, it's like, oh, I can't continue.
70s. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it went really well. I mean, he's been adding a little bit more of some additional songs that I don't typically play, especially as the night progresses, because I kind of give him a little bit more free reign to run with what he's feeling. And there's times where he's playing the traditional, and the crowd's responding really well. And then there's times where he takes a flyer, and it's like, wow, I haven't played that in a long time, and it worked really, really well. So I guess the point, I guess, from my perspective, again, talking to Michael with that, is that when early in the night, people are expecting an experience. In some cases, they're looking for some of those favorite songs that they can dance to and play and have a good time with. And if that means that we're playing the same, in that first hour, there's playing 10 songs that were the same that we played last week, maybe shuffling them up a little bit, but we're playing some of these big hits that people want to experience at a wedding, and maybe the only wedding they're going to hit this year. Yeah, I'm going to do it. And somebody, I love, there was a comment there. Basically, if you can't act excited, basically, about hearing the same song, if you can't pretend to be excited about hearing Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, maybe you shouldn't be a wedding DJ. That mentality is that yeah, we've heard that song a lot of times. We've got to be hyped to play it. We've got to be excited and bouncing a little bit, and woo, as we go. And if you, going back to Mike Walter, he talks about that song. That's one of them he's not a big fan of, but if you listen to it, when he hits it, he's got a routine that he does with it, and he works the song and works the crowd, and it is a great tool for his performances.
I think this is something you hit on, something that earlier you mentioned. For some of these couples, they only go to one wedding a year, and so when they go, they want to hear that one song. It might be worth it, as you get to your event and you're completely set up, taking 5 minutes and going over and looking at the seating chart and seeing how many married couples you have that are there and how many singles. Because if you've got a fair number of singles, and they're there with a date, right? But
Yep.
you don't have Mr. and Mrs. Jones or whatever. If you have a lot of singles, what you might find is they've gone to 4, 5, 6 weddings that year. Like just a couple weeks ago, one of my coworkers got married, and we were there, and I was talking with a friend of mine, and he goes, "Yeah, this is wedding number 3 of 4 for this year, and we're only in June." Right? Like that's how many they've been to already, and they've still got one more after that. So I think if you recognize that there's a lot of singles, I'm not saying you have to suddenly go, okay, I'm going to go and right, left field for everything else and really throw them for a loop, but it might be worth recognizing that too much of the same old is not going to work with this couple or with this crew, because they've been to X amount of weddings this year, let alone over the past however many years. Where if you have a bunch of married couples,
and that's a great point, Dan, because this past weekend we had a lot of married couples Saturday night, and that was the most slow dances that every like 25 minutes there was another slow dance, another slow dance, and boy, 4 weeks ago we did one slow dance. After the first dance, we did one. Nothing the rest of the night. And for something that's involved with my, what I do, that's unheard of. It's like generally at least once an hour. Nope, it didn't happen because we had mainly single, younger single people, and they were out dancing and having a good time. And it's like, okay, we could do a slow dance, but the parents of the groom and the parents of the bride, I'm not seeing any other real, married couples. There's a few dating, but there were like just a spots here and there. So yeah, good idea there. There, you kind of pay attention to
Yeah.
that.
I think it's situational too, and I think as a job, we got to have fun as well. And that's why, and then we play the classics, and I do play the classics. I really do. I just don't like to do them in the same order because that's like working at Subway playing that's got to be boring. You know what I'm saying? So I like to change it. I think I said the reason I like to change, 3 to 5 songs different a night and just, so it's not so boring for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, Uptown Funk, man, I could sing that backwards in my head. And I know Little Boo thing goes right into it. There's a lot of songs that that you can drop. I don't know. Like I said, my thing is just have fun at your wedding and try not to do the same thing every time. Change up your mix. Same with the classics, but change up your mix.
Yes. Okay, let's do one last one, guys, here, and we'll be wrapping up for tonight. Here we go. Final question of the night is about the reviews we get after our show, specifically when you get thank you letters and things. And I'm not talking about the ones where they do it in advance, but when they are communicating with you after the event's over or the next day, the week after, whatever. What are they talking about? What part of your service are they talking about? And this is really specifically where I'm looking for one area that many people, DJs, put way too much importance on, and I don't think we're going to hear any of us talk about that, which I think you guys have, you kind of know where I'm headed here. But Cubbie, start us off. When you are getting feedback, or as far as when they're saying, "Hey, Cubbie, we just absolutely loved," blah, what is the blah? What are they talking about? And if it's your dance that you do, try to keep it clean.
He ate all the cupcakes. No, I would. A lot of them are personality, hosting, and keeping the dance floor full. I'm sorry, it's 3 things, but it's literally
No, that's good.
Yeah, organization, emceeing, and keeping the dance floor full with that in using all that together.
Mm-hmm. Dan?
He made us dance more than anybody else in the history of music. Now, but it's funny you mentioned waiting until after the event. A lot of times, even my cards that I get the day of, as well as the ones after, mention the planning process and walking their hand through it,
Okay, and that would
so
be
that
definitely
they
legit
did not
because,
have to worry about it.
yeah.
One of the things I used to kind of pride myself in, my goal was that my couples were the guests at their own reception. We've done all the planning ahead of time. We talked about all the ins and outs. So when they got to that day, they got to be the guests of honor. They didn't have to work and think about things for what they were doing. They could just have a great time and celebrate themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that planning process leading into just a carefree, for lack of better terms, night, easy to work with.
Yeah, and that would be one of the few times because they've done that and experienced that, and we've all gotten the cards, the little thank you cards that the coordinator hands to us that said, thank you for making our night unforgettable. It's like, you had no idea. This was written 3 days ago. You have no idea if I was going to make it unforgettable or how I was going to make it unforgettable. I could have made it unforgettable for any number of bad ways too. The big ones that I see is people talking about how many people liked me, as far as boy, they really liked you. They enjoyed talking and such, and then the way that it made it such a fun event. Those are the 2 things I hear the most, is that people really liked you and you made it such a fun event and a fun day. It's not talking about gear. It's not really talking overly in abundance about music in my situation, because they're talking, and Dan's, they're talking about his ability to create and be that way. And Cubbie with the ability to use his personality and how they appreciate that. Yes, the music is important, and yes, the gear is important. Don't get me wrong here, but sometimes some of the things that people that stick out in their mind are beyond the gear and beyond even our music, that they literally remembered, why did the one family want me to come back? Because they liked me. They like to do business with people they liked, and it wasn't because I was the greatest DJ in the world, which like maybe in there they've seen I am. That wasn't the point. They enjoyed, they liked working with me, and they enjoyed what I could help them create for a fun night. So
I think, and not to downplay your comment about the gear and everything else, like what I found is that stuff doesn't make its way into my reviews, but I will get guests who will come up and make a comment. Or the one thing I love about my booths that I've had, they'll take a picture of it. Like it, and now part of it's because there's a picture of the bride and groom,
Yep.
the couple on the front of it. So there's a reason why they're taking a picture of it. It's not just, oh my gosh, it's DJ gear, let's take a picture. Um, they're taking a picture of the couple, but it's still kind of one of those pieces where the comments I will get are verbal comments. The stuff that I will get in the review is all about how the couple felt. And so the two are kind of very different directions, I think, is as far as also, I don't want to say fleeting, but more temporary versus long term. The couples are going to be long term because that's how it made them feel. But the looks are going to be the things that catch people's attention and give you that short, quick, hey, that looks really cool. That or that sounded really nice. Like,
and I think it really that helps that professional look. It doesn't look like something where okay, so now all of a sudden I've got to work. I got it. My first thing the hill I have to climb is, okay, I'm running a poor gear. It looks kind of chintzy. So now I have to win people over and show them that no, my gear isn't cheap and it isn't crap. It's actually functional. So immediately you've got a level of cred because of having what looks to be a really neat experience that you're going to be able to create, as opposed to having like an old car front or something that looks terrible, and then they're like, hey, is that gonna blow up or something, or whatever.
So I like to bring the bride behind my system and put my headphones on her, and then they take pictures of her videos, and those are the ones I see on Facebook afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah. So they'll put my headphones on, and I got a dating max like Dan does and stuff, and I'll show them where the jog wheel is and tell them to scratch a little bit, and the crowd's like loving it, and then she's playing out, and got the headphones on, and those are the best pictures afterwards that I see on that they had a time of their life, like they were the DJ, and it's just fun to watch. It scratched like shit, but I mean,
exactly, but they're having fun. And it's
they're having
it's
a
their day.
great
No one's going to
time.
come up and say, this song would be better if you wouldn't be scratching there, Miss Bride. Quit it. Yeah, no, that's never going to happen.
But those are the
hey, can you
memories.
play
Like I
Huey
said,
Lewis in the News?
See, now that would have been like taking the party up a notch or two. 2 notches up.
We upside down again.
But also, I'll make sure my water bottle's not in my cup holder. I mean, my notes are not on my thing right here. So I really clean up my booth. But I mean, that's not dirty. But I'm saying, but I have where my clipboard is, and I have a cup holder, and I just make sure everything's out of the way.
Make
but
sure you're
sitting behind it is some of the best pictures to see on Facebook.
Make sure your boxer shorts are not, you can put your pants back on.
Yeah,
that's why the booth is extra tall, so I don't have to wear those pants. Pants off, dancing.
He's got the one with just the 2 columns though. People can see his legs.
Well, I do have the 2-column one. Yeah,
that is true. He did get that one. All right, gentlemen, up next, DJNTV.com/chill. In the chill room tonight, it will be the crew, John and Eric, and there's a whole crew that comes in there that will be in there. So you guys can go hang out in there. They record a little topic of discussion for the night, and that'll happen at 10 o'clock Eastern here in just a few minutes. And then they'll be hanging out and talking in the hallway, kind of in the Zoom room. So DJNTV.com/chill. I don't know if I'm going to be getting back to getting the videos up in time this week, because this is I get on another long week where I'm not actually at the house very much this week. So you might see some videos dropping this week or not. I might just be dropping Cubbie's videos from the Marquee show this week, because most of those are already edited and ready to go. So yeah, that'll be this week, and then next week will be more of a regular work week for me. So yay. Other than that, I think that is it. Anything else exciting, guys, or are we wrapped up?
No, thanks for
There's
tuning
lots
in.
of things that are exciting, but I think we're just about out of
It's
time.
not us three. Yeah.
Yeah. Send them to the next one. All right. Take us home, man.
Well, thank everybody for taking time to join us, and the questions that were popping into the chat. If we didn't answer yours tonight, we'll add them to the list of questions and hopefully get to them next time. We appreciate each and every one of you, and hope you are having a wonderful summer. Stay cool, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.